Welcome back, everybody, to Pull Hook Golf, the podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cook, and tonight we've got a very special episode. This is the Masters special, and man, we've got a lot to go over tonight. There's so much to go over when it comes to the Masters because, to me, this is the Holy Grail. This is the best week of the entire year. This is the best major. It kicks off everything in terms of golf. Really kind of gets my golf mojo going in terms of playing and so forth. I always feel motivated after a Masters tournament to go out there, start hitting some balls, start working on the game again, and start really getting after it a bit. But on tonight's episode, we're going to talk about Akshay Bhatia's win and how that got him into the Masters. We're going to talk a little bit about the Masters preview and analysis around this year's Masters. We've got favorite Masters moments that I'll be talking about. We've got the Swannies style segment, of course, and then the LIV Golf Masters edition. Okay, always save the best for last. I know the LIV fans out there, they love that part of the show, so we'll get into that at the very end, and you might even be able to hear it in my voice. I'm playing injured. Hopefully I'll have a Michael Jordan flu game tonight. Butsy is also under the weather. It hit him really hard today. He is out for the count. So that's where I decided, you know what, let's get back to the OG. Let's get into the studio. I haven't been in the studio in a while, and let's get the green screen up behind me. Let's get some master stuff going here, and let's really turn this into something here today. But also keep in mind that we're looking at potentially doing a midway point in the golf tournament for a show, a live stream and broadcast, hopefully on Friday, potentially around the same time, around 7 o'clock Pacific time. And we'll recap the first 2 days of the Masters tournament and bring you some fun and entertainment that coincides with the Masters. So obviously we don't want to interrupt the Masters broadcast at all, which is why tonight I was like, you know what, we've got to skip Wednesday, because if we record, then who knows if we're going to be healthy or not. And then on top of that, we're going to be really competing with Thursday's Masters coverage and everything. I'm like, everybody's going to just be locked into the Masters. I know I for sure am as well. So without further ado, I do want to thank our sponsor, Swannies Golf, for sponsoring tonight's episode, along with DriveBox. So first, we'll start with Swannies. Go to swannies.co. Utilize promo code PullHookGolf25 at checkout. Get 25% off your entire order at swannies.co. I'm rocking the gear tonight. I've got some master styling that's coming in as well. I figured I'd save that for potentially the live broadcast, potentially on Friday. And then DriveBox. If you haven't heard of DriveBox, folks, go to drivebox.com. It's DRYVEBOX.com. And DriveBox is a mobile golf simulator. It is taking over right now. It's in major cities across the United States. In next week, one of our podcast episodes, I actually interviewed one of the venture capitalists who invested into DriveBox. And that episode will be dropping next week. But DriveBox, they've been fantastic to us and really want to give them a nice little shout out. They decided to sponsor tonight's episode, so we greatly appreciate that as well. All right, Akshay Bhatia gets into the Masters, folks. And here's the thing, there's a little bit of a connection here, because not only did Akshay Bhatia win and get into the Masters, but he also got and enjoyed, I posted this on Twitter this week, that he got to enjoy a nice little private jet from Valero that took him from that tournament Sunday night directly into Augusta, Georgia. Now, Akshay Bhatia wins in a playoff over Denny McCarthy. Denny McCarthy was already going to be in the Masters, but he fired a 63 Sunday to force a playoff before he did go on to fat a wedge. Shows you how tough this game really is. I mean, he shot a 63 and then goes and chunks it in the playoff, hits it in the water, opens the door for Akshay to take the tournament. But another thing here that we do want to mention as well is that Akshay, the other connection to the Masters that's pretty cool is that he participated and competed in the drive, chip, and putt when he was 12 years old, and he was at Augusta National for that event for the finals, and he is the first ever participant of the drive, chip, and putt to actually compete in the Masters. So really special moment for drive, chip, and putt and a Augusta National with the Masters to have their first participate in both. So Akshay Bhatia, now some people do realize that, and I heard it on Twitter as well, around him doing his fist pumps, and all of a sudden Akshay Bhatia threw out his shoulder, actually dislocated it. It went back in. It doesn't look to be too much of an injury. Doesn't seem like there's any tearing or anything going on like that, which can be the case when all of a sudden you pop your shoulder out of its socket. You can have some damage there. Doesn't look like there's any damage there whatsoever. As we were talking about last week on the show, he is like the praying mantis on tour. So very skinny. I don't know if there was any muscle there to really damage. So he's going to be just fine, folks. So if anybody was worried about him, just know that he is probably going to be fine. Now, throughout this episode, if you are on Twitter, if you are on YouTube, if you're on millions.co, feel free to go ahead and add in any comments throughout the show. I'll be really kind of relying on some of those for a little bit of breaks as well as we go through. So feel free to add those in as you may. Now, with Akshay, and actually before we do get into Akshay here even further, we got a nice little, this was from 2015. One of my favorite glasses that I've ever had. Did an event out there at the Masters, and 2015 was the year that Jordan Spieth won, and it actually has my signature engraved into the glass. They had one of the master glass etchers. I don't know exactly what the name for them is, but this is a prized possession. And yes, it is water tonight. It's not any alcohol. Again, you can probably hear it in my voice, a little under the weather. Flu game. So we're just going to take a little sip there to get on going with Beyond Akshay, because that kind of wraps up Akshay, right? You got him. He's flying over in a private jet from Valero. Really cool situation with that for winning the Valero Texas Open. And then in addition, by the way, the players that played in the Valero Texas Open that were already in the Masters, like Denny McCarthy, Hideki Matsuyama, so on and so forth, those players have a charter jet from Valero that takes them over to the Masters. So pretty nice deal there that Valero does for the participants and the winner of the golf tournament. But without further ado, let's get into the Masters preview here, because this is what we are here for. Now, as far as the course is concerned, there are a few changes. So par 5 13th, that's going to be the most notable one in terms of what is talked about. There's a couple new green surfaces as well, but with the par 5 13th, they once again have extended that tee back even deeper. Now, they had to buy property from Augusta Country Club, which borders them. I've played out there before, and it is really cool kind of because during Masters Week, you actually get the caddies that caddy at Augusta National, that caddy for you at Augusta Country Club. They've got great stories, everything like that. So if you're ever out there and get the opportunity to go play at Augusta Country Club, do yourself a service and do so. Or Champions Retreat, which is also a phenomenal one out there as well. Shout out to one of my guys, John Quinn, who he used to get me out there at Champions Retreat during Masters Week, as well as Augusta Country Club. And that being said, that tee box for the 13th par 5 is back, and it's actually tucked a little bit further left. So now you've really got to hit that draw or a cut if you're a lefty for that particular hole, and you're gonna have to hit driver to get it out there to have any chance to go for that hole in 2 this year. So that'll be interesting to see what the strategy is. Now, they dealt with a lot of that last year. I feel like it was a bigger topic because that was the first time that they've really extended it back, and you really had to pump driver out there, and you couldn't really cut the corner nearly as much. So this year, it's just a little bit deeper, a little bit further left. So they're already dealing with that from last year. But that being said, the green complexes, they've started to sharpen some of the green complexes. What I mean by that is they've started to have more of a, how do I explain it? More of a sharper edge to it. So it drops off a lot quicker. And that's going to be something that, the players that have played there for a very long time are going to notice those differences, are going to be writing that down. Hence a Phil Mickelson, for instance, Tiger Woods and so forth. But the course is once again in just perfect condition. It looks absolutely unreal out there. And here's the thing, for those of you that have not been out there, and I know Butsy's one of them who has never been on foot at the Masters, but this is one of the most physically challenging golf courses that they play all year round. It's one of the things that doesn't really get talked about all that much, but Ian Baker Finch, when I was out there at the Masters during 2014, 15, and 16, it's funny, he was a guest of the group that I was with down there, and every year he talked about the same thing, that it is the most physically grueling golf course they play all year because of how undulating it is, how hilly it is. And he said, man, guys, by the time you get to Sunday, you're getting your ankles taped, you're getting your shins taped. Like it is, or you got shin splints, you're just beat up from walking that property. And I can attest, being a fan out there in those years, inside the ropes, walking along, I mean, TV does not do it justice at all. I mean, it's a compound out there. The undulating hills are substantial, and that's where, in a lot of years, it's a war of attrition. Who can last, whose body is going to allow them to continue, which is surprising because you see some guys out there who had a chance to win, like Phil Mickelson last year, Tiger Woods winning in 2019, Jack Nicklaus back in the day winning at 46 years old. Those type of things, certainly, you look at it and you're like, man, course knowledge goes such a long way at the Masters. And when we do talk about the course analysis, you do have to know that Amen Corner, that is where, when it comes down on Sunday, there are so many instances where everybody's hopes and dreams of winning the Masters can go away in a split second when they're on hole number 12. If you dunk it in the water there, and you pull a Jordan Spieth in 2016, it is devastating. You do not recover from that. So look out for hole number 12 this week, especially on Sunday. And let's see if the players can overcome that fear, the swirling winds that go on there, because you're going to look at the caddies. They're going to be looking up and around at the tips of the trees to see if they can get any sign of where the wind is actually blowing. And you'll notice guys will try to hit some flighted shots in there as well. But as Tiger did in 2019, the safest play is to play to center left. If you play it to center left, you got a nice little two putt. That's the fattest part of the green. You're most likely not going to hit it into the water over there. But it's those guys that go after that flagstick or mistakenly go over at that flagstick all the way on the right-hand side that end up hitting that front hill, dropping into the water, or even just missing just a little bit to the side, falling into the water. So you do have to watch out. Obviously, Amen Corner, that par 5 that I've already talked about, that has changed a bit. It's just a bit of a different course strategy now for a lot of guys coming into that section. It's not that all of a sudden you're going to have guys that are making a ton of eagles on Sunday on the par 5 13th, but Amen Corner. I cannot wait for this Sunday when all of a sudden it all comes down to that little section. Oh man. And this year is going to be really, really interesting because the field, we've got the two sides that emerge back together again, at least the majority of it. And we're going to start off with the PGA Tour side here to start off with in terms of our field analysis. We've got the big cat, Tiger Woods. Got to talk about him because will his body hold up? I don't know. I mean, we can hope and pray that the big cat, I don't think anybody really wants to see the big cat not out there competing, whether you love him or hate him. You kind of want to see him in contention come Sunday. And that's the thing with Tiger Woods right now. That fused ankle into his foot took out a lot of pain that he has, and he's looking pretty damn good. Seeing him out there with Lance Bennett puts a smile on my face, as we've had Lance Bennett on this podcast multiple times. He is his caddy once again, folks, and I don't think Tiger is, how do I put this? I don't think Tiger is done by any stretch of the imagination at this point. I think he's starting to feel good. And one of the things I did here is back before the Players Championship, that is, Tiger was playing a medalist and was playing so well and played in a tournament there that he did not feel the need to go and play the Players Championship. Didn't want the grind of the Players Championship. That's why he forwent that. He actually was planning to play in the Players Championship, and I was kind of surprised when he didn't because everybody was telling me that he was playing in it. Then all of a sudden he doesn't, and really the feedback that I've gotten is that he's feeling so good right now. His swing is so good that he just wants to keep it going and be fresh coming into this Masters. He really believes that he's got a chance to win this year's Masters because the body's feeling good, the back's okay, everything. I mean, now this could go horribly wrong right from the onset. So we don't know, right? We don't know if it's going to all of a sudden he gets into Thursday's round or, Friday's round and all of a sudden back stiffens up, body starts to get sore. We don't know how this is going to end up going, but we can only hope at this point that Tiger's body holds up. And if he does, watch out for Tiger Woods because this course knowledge goes so far at Augusta National. If you know how to play this golf course, you can play really well here almost year in and year out. So keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to do a rundown of past winners, okay? We're going to start in last year's winner, 2023. I know I'm talking about PGA Tour guys and so forth, but I'm just going to run down past winners here over the last 13 years. First of all, 2023, Jon Rahm, obviously. The dinner is happening tonight. I heard it's phenomenal. I don't know that. That's not true. So 2022, Scottie Scheffler. The absolutely beautiful play from Scottie Scheffler in 2022 allowed him to 4-putt the 18th hole on Sunday and still come away with the victory. Hideki Matsuyama, okay, 2021, he won. 2020, that was a weird year in 2020 because that was the year that they had to move it from the spring to the fall. Ryegrass was different. Course played very soft. Greens were not nearly as fast as they normally are. Dustin Johnson wins that one. Guess who was right with him during that was Sungjae Im. So Just throwing that in there as a little caveat. Don't know if either of them are really going to be up there this week. But 2019, who's going to forget that? Tiger Woods wins. We've got 2018 winner being Patrick Reed. 2017, Sergio Garcia. 2016, Danny Willett. 2015, Jordan Spieth. 2014, Bubba Watson. 2013, Adam Scott. 2012, Bubba Watson. 2011, Charles Schwartzel. 2010, Phil Mickelson. Okay, so that's a rundown of your last, going back to 2010 for your winners at the Masters. Now, hot names that have really cooled off so far this year, that last year, towards the end of last year, it was almost a given that people were either going with Ludwig Åberg or, guess who else? Victor Hovland. Now, a quick word from our sponsor. Swannies is here with a fresh take. Performance-based materials are a given these days. But if you're looking for the stretchiest and most lightweight pieces that deliver a look that says, I'm here for a good time, take a walk on the Swannies side. With fabric sourced from recycled plastics and designs sourced from our very own weekend warriors, Swannies is looking out for both our planet and those that need a little style to boost their drive another 15 yards. Premium looks from top to bottom at swannies.co. And that chatter has pretty much gone away. Everybody that was like, oh, Ludwig's got this, Ludwig's going to win the Masters next year, everybody has kind of cooled off. And I said it at the time. I'm like, man, we've really got to pump the brakes here with Ludwig Åberg, because Ludwig is just, he's young, man. Like, he's so talented, so good, but he got off to such a hot start. And eventually there's going to be that little bit of a downturn for such a young golfer coming onto the PGA Tour. Now, this is his first Masters. Could he absolutely go out there and play fantastic? He could. Who knows? But Victor Hovland has been an enigma this year. He's the other one. And I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that after the end of last year, I'm like, oh, there's no doubt Victor Hovland's going to win the Masters next year. Like, he's going to carry this through into the spring, and there's no stopping Victor Hovland. He's a machine now. He's going to be phenomenal. And you saw that a lot of what was going on with the PGA Tour versus LIV, and we'll get into this in a second, but it affected him because he came out with strong comments against the PGA Tour brass and against Jay Monahan. So that's a tough one to just all of a sudden kind of throw that by the wayside, that isn't affecting his golf play. And again, we'll get to that part of this in just a few minutes. But Victor Hovland's also been going through some swing changes, okay? And you're always trying to get to perfect in the game of golf, always making tweaks, always trying to get to that next level. If there is a next level, we saw it when Tiger Woods went from Butch Harmon to Hank Haney, from Hank Haney to Sean Foley to Chris Como, so on and so forth. So, and everybody, well, I should say that I believe that Tiger was best under Butch Harmon, right? Victor Hovland, again, we just haven't seen anything from him this year so far. Could this be his breakout tournament? Sure, certainly could be. But the big names this year that are really kind of expected to win, I don't know if expected is the right word for this, but are, I would say, the media darlings that especially the U.S. media are really pushing the storylines around. Rory McIlroy being one of them. I mean, it seems like now every year coming into the Masters, whether Rory is playing well or not, oh, Rory McIlroy has to win the Masters, has to complete his Grand Slam. And I get it. It's a good storyline to complete his Grand Slam. But is Rory McIlroy's game really there? Now, the one thing with Rory, and I'll tell you right now, he went and saw Butch Harmon, okay? Spent some time with Butch, and he's confident in his game. But after listening to his press conference, it still seems like Rory is searching for something. You don't want to go into Augusta National and play the Masters searching for something. Now, every once in a while, everything clicks and you haven't been playing well, but you get into your familiar positions at the Masters. You know the course so well, and all of a sudden you can go out and play really well for a given week. Rory really hasn't been that guy that knows the course so well, plays it to a T, and is just always going to be up there. I mean, he misses cuts. So I don't know if Rory is really in a position to win. He's one of the favorites this week, that is for sure. Scottie Scheffler being the other. Now, if you watch the Golf Channel, which I popped it on today because they've got live from the Masters, and I love seeing the guys hit shots, and it's almost one of those like past 2 years with LIV Golf broadcast where I would have to mute the TV in order to actually watch it. That's not the case anymore with LIV. I'm not going to take that stance anymore because the broadcast is really good now. But popping on the Golf Channel, I'm like, ooh, this is rough. Having to listen to Brandel Chambly and everybody on there and even the press conferences have been a bit rough. Whenever a LIV Golf guy comes up, all the questions that are being asked, you can tell very jaded towards the PGA Tour, and, they're kind of being shunned upon and they're being asked weird questions. It's just not something that I love to see. And I don't love that, this year's Masters is dominated by PGA Tour versus LIV Golf talk yet again. So that's kind of a bummer. But Scottie Scheffler is the one that is fully expected to win this week. I mean, he is by far the favorite. Vegas betting odds have him very heavily as the favorite, and we'll get into that here in a second as well. My big question for Scottie Scheffler is, how is the mallet putter, that spider putter from TaylorMade, going to hold up this week? Is this going to be something where he has touch on some of those long breaking putts? And can he make those short putts, especially coming down on Sunday? That is always going to be the question with Scottie Scheffler up until he really fixes that. Apparently, I've heard that he is putting well in the first couple days of being out there. So we shall see. Sorry, quick water break. Now, other notables, Jordan Spieth. Jordan is one of these guys that could be playing poorly and still offer up a chance to be in there. He clearly played this course so well in 2014, 15, and 16, winning it in 15, coming runner-up in 14 to Bubba Watson, and in 2016, blowing it. Now, he hasn't necessarily sniffed a victory since, but he is somebody who doesn't need to be in full form going into Augusta. He reminds me a lot of Phil Mickelson in that way, that he can just show up at Augusta National and he's got a chance to win. So Jordan Spieth, very good notable here. Justin Thomas just split with Bones. That is something that I had seen coming for a long time. I never really felt like Justin Thomas and Bones McKay really meshed. People will argue with me on this. It's funny. Bobby Brown was co-host on here for a long time, and we would go back and forth on this one. He's like, but Bones is the best. And it's like, yeah, but he's had to adapt to Justin Thomas. It wasn't that clean mesh that happens immediately when you see a new caddy go on the bag. Hence, Akshay Bhatia had a new caddy last week, and clearly they meshed very, very well to end up getting a victory. You see that sometimes with guys, to where a new caddy's on the bag and all of a sudden they start playing lights out. I always felt like Bones and Justin Thomas, Bones was just very much so analytical. He had been with Phil Mickelson for so long and needing to provide every bit of detail to Phil Mickelson. Every number, everything, okay? How to hit, like what type of shot are we hitting here? What height are we going to flight the ball at? Are we going 3/4? I don't know if that is Justin Thomas's game. Justin Thomas used to just go out there, rip it around, and rely on talent in order to get him victories. And it worked for him for a very long time. So I'll be curious to see what this new caddy setup is like for Justin Thomas. We've got Wyndham Clark, who I don't know much about Wyndham Clark at the Masters. Let's call a spade here. I'm very curious to see if Wyndham Clark can play well at Augusta National, because remember, for righties, it is very much a draw that you have to hit at Augusta National. For lefties, it's a fade. So Wyndham Clark hits a big fade, and he's right-handed. So he is going the opposite of how all of these holes are shaped at Augusta National. So it's going to be very curious to see how Wyndham Clark plays. Ricky Fowler, see what type of form he's going to be in. Jason Day, whenever he's been healthy, he's played well out at the Masters. So watch out for him a little bit. And then Cameron Young, again, another notable where this kid has played very, very well. However, he just hasn't broken through yet. And my dark horse for the week, which some of you are going to say, it's not really a dark horse, is Will Zalatoris. Will Zalatoris, he has played the Masters only 2 times, okay? Last year, he was not in it because of the back injury. But the 2 times that he's played it, he finished 2nd and tied for 6th. Let me repeat that. The 2 times Will Zalatoris has played Augusta National, he has finished 2nd and tied for 6th. Hang on. Let me repeat that one more time. No, I'm just kidding. Will Zalatoris is getting into form at the right time. He played a practice round with Tiger on Monday, and he learned a lot about this golf course. Now, one of the stories that I've heard over and over and over again is about how guys like Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson, if you look, they have a special book just for Augusta National, and especially Phil, I've heard this about. And there is every detail in that book that you could possibly want to know about every single hole out there. That's why Phil Mickelson knows exactly where to miss, knows exactly how these putts break. Tiger Woods is kind of in that same boat. So for Will Zalatoris, really, really smart on Monday to get into a practice round with Tiger, go out there, play with him, pick his brain a bit. And I absolutely love that for Will Zalatoris. So he's going to be my dark horse this week. Let's switch gears for a tiny second here. And let's talk about these PGA Tour players, because I've got a feeling that a lot of them have been affected by everything going on with LIV Golf, okay? Clearly, a deal was not announced before the Masters. And, you know, gosh, I hate to give credit where credit is due, but Brandel Chambly actually brought up some stats around this. And I've got to agree with him on this one thing, that PGA Tour players have been affected by PIF. They have not been playing their best golf this year. And they certainly have been distracted, if anything, from the entire dealings between the PGA Tour and PIF. Whether they have felt like they're jaded because they feel betrayed by the PGA Tour for trying to create a deal, or if it is that they're in the negotiations. So think of somebody like Patrick Cantlay, who has had a terrible, terrible start to the year. And he is almost 2 strokes worse in strokes gained approach. And that is across the board with all of the top players right now. They're all right around a half a stroke, all the way up to, I don't think it was all the way up to 2. I think it was a a stroke and a half or a stroke 0.56 for Patrick Cantlay, which he was the worst out of the bunch. But everybody has been affected. And that's where, maybe some of these LIV guys, and we'll get into the LIV side of this, the LIV Masters edition here later on, but maybe some of these LIV guys are kind of not too stressed out, have had some easy golf tournaments coming into the year so far, have been able to ease their way into things. And maybe we could be looking at, some guys playing pretty well this year from the LIV side of things. But certainly, once again, PGA Tour players, they certainly have been affected, and data is showing it. And I think it has to be, because with Patrick Cantlay, for instance, and he's leading those efforts with the negotiations from the player side, and it's got to wear on you. Like, everybody is human, and sometimes it is tough to separate, what's going on with the tour versus going out and playing and being able to focus on your game, the practice that goes into it. So again, I do think that the PGA Tour players have been affected by everything going on, and there is no current sign in sight. I mean, they were going through due diligence. Players met with Yasir, but again, it just doesn't seem like they're all that close right now in terms of the deal between the PGA Tour and PIF. Let's go over some of the betting favorites, and this comes directly from FanDuel. So we got Scotty Scheffler. He is a plus 450. By far the betting favorite across the board by more than double. So Rory McIlroy and John Rahm both going to take that second slot at plus 1,100. You've got Xander Schauffele at plus 1,400. You've got Hideki Matsuyama at plus 2,000. I've been very high on him coming into this year's Masters. I think Hideki is going to be doing quite well. And then we also have Brooks Koepka at plus 2,200. If you have any questions about the Masters, all you Twitter folk, all you need to do is just comment on this particular live stream, and I will see your comments. If you're on YouTube, you can add it into the chat, or on Millions, you can add that into the chat as well. Another quick water break. As we move into the next part of this episode, which is favorite Masters moments. Okay, so maybe this is where some of our fans want to go ahead, and audience members want to chime in a little bit about what your favorite Masters moments are, because I've got so many favorite Masters moments throughout the years. But I will say this: as a kid, seeing David Duval in contention in all navy blue, the pants were blue, the top was blue, he had the shades on, had the hat navy blue. Man, David Duval with that all blue look. I still remember, and it's unfortunate that, David never got over that final hump in terms of being able to win a Masters tournament. But David Duval, man, in all blue, still remember it, had the Oakley shades on. I just remember I was going right to my mom after that going, Mom, I need an all navy blue outfit. I need navy blue pants. I need a navy blue top. I need Oakley sunglasses. I need a Titleist hat. I need all of this, Mom, because of David Duval coming down on Sunday in that all blue outfit. It would have been sick with that green jacket if he had pulled it off, but unfortunately he did not. David Duval was my favorite player growing up. As an adult, my favorite Masters moment as an adult was certainly watching Tiger Woods win in 2019. I'm curious if anybody else has something as an adult that they have, in the past couple of years that has beaten Tiger Woods winning in 2019. And I actually heard a really cool story today from Joe LaCava and Fred Couples. So Joe LaCava was Fred Couples' caddy when Fred won the Masters, going back to, I want to say it was like 92 or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly, don't have it off the top of my head, and don't have it in my notes. But Fred Couples wins the Masters. Well, it's a tradition that the caddies go and take the flag from the 18th hole, or the actual flag itself. Okay, twist it off of the pin, and just take the flag. Well, Joe LaCava, who in his words was a young, cocky caddy that just kind of, couldn't really be tested by anybody, just was on top of the world, caddying for a young Freddie Couples, which you got to think, young Freddie Couples had some swag, man. So he was just Freddie, cool, calm, collected. His swing was smooth like butter. So Joe LaCava, when Freddie wins, decides, I'm not taking just the flag, I'm taking the whole damn flag stick. And sure enough, one of the Masters security guards comes up to him and tells him, sir, you can't take that. That is private property. And Joe goes, well, I'm taking it unless you rip this out of my hands. So Joe LaCava went on to take that Masters flag stick, and he still has it today. Well, guess what? In 2019, when Tiger won, he did the same thing. So apparently he's got two flag sticks that cross now. And one is Freddie Couples' win and one is Tiger Woods' win, which is pretty cool. I thought that was a pretty cool story. But watching Tiger win in 2019, it just seemed improbable. It didn't seem like, and I still watch it over and over and over again just to get into the Masters mood. And I'll tell you right now, I had the Indoor Golf Center in New York City. Me and my best friend were sitting there, Sean Clark, and we were watching that on the golf simulator screen, which is about 210 inches. And we closed the shop for the day. We were just in there watching it, just the two of us, hitting shots into the screen and watching Tiger come down the stretch. And we were going absolutely berserk. There might have been a few brewskis, so to speak, involved that day as well. But man, I still remember sitting there watching it, and gosh, Tiger Woods winning in 2019, it still has that extra piece for me that I will never forget as an adult. And my best friend Sean, Tiger was his favorite golfer growing up, as many people he was, and to see just the excitement and enjoyment, and I think he even might have shed a tear when Tiger won, which it just really kind of sits at home for me. And then, another great Masters moment was Jordan Spieth in 2016. I was there once again. I was there on property, walking around in 2014, 15, and 16. I would say my favorite year going to the Masters was 2015. We had just done a deal with Jordan Spieth prior to that, and actually we did it. I want to say we did the deal with him in 2014, and then he just narrowly missed in 2014. Then goes on and wins in 2015. Well, we were around his team and everything in 2015, and that was just really cool to be there to celebrate and everything. In 2015, have a signed flag from Jordan in 2015, and that experience was just incredible, because if you remember the year prior, Jordan was so close to winning, but Bubba just outpowered him in the end. Coming down Sunday, Bubba just had more stamina, just played a bit better than Jordan did. And really, the power from Bubba Watson really showed that year. And for Jordan to come back in 2015 and win it, that was unreal. Now, 2016 kind of has the same kind of feel to it, where it was such an incredible experience and everybody was just expecting Jordan to pull off the back-to-back victory. Well, I was sitting on hole number 15 and I shouldn't say sitting, we were standing. I was with a buddy of mine, and all of a sudden, the official, one of the guys with the headsets, all of a sudden turns to us. And for some reason, he turned to the two of us and just goes, "You guys are not going to believe this. Over the radio, Jordan Spieth has just dunked it into the water twice." He goes, "Wait until this leaderboard changes." Because you couldn't hear the crowd, for instance. Okay. But him over the radio. So we sat there, we're waiting for that sign to change on 15. And sure enough, as soon as it changed, people just started gasping. One guy just got so upset because he had Jordan Spieth winning and thought he was a lock that he almost started crying. It was like weeping. But it was the weirdest thing to hear because normally it's the roars that really get you going. But it was in that moment, all the sighs from the entire gallery. It was just very kind of, I don't know. It was very upsetting, kind of just depressing in a way. And obviously that's the year that Danny Willett ended up coming through and winning because of Jordan Spieth dunking it into the water twice on hole number 12. So that was a heck of a memory as well, obviously for other reasons other than, purely positive ones. But the other one that goes along this line is a little story that I have, and I normally talk about it every year now because this happened 2 years ago where we're on this podcast and the late Mikey Perez, he was a co-host. We had Mr. Short Game on here for that Masters year. And let me paint the scene for you because Mikey was staying in San Diego at the Bridges. So the very nice country club that, probably one of the most expensive country clubs in San Diego. And sure enough, he's staying at this man's house. Okay. It was a buddy of his and the family. And sure enough, he was a older gentleman. I think he might have been like in his 90s. So Mikey had told him what he was doing and everything. He had the green screen with him. He had taken all of his podcast equipment with him, was going to do the show out of the house. Well, Mikey was getting so amped up and pumped up throughout the episode that he didn't realize how loud he was being. And sure enough, the old man came busting through the door while we were actually recording the podcast. And Mikey goes to throw his hands up to say, "Stop, stop, stop." And the guy just screams at him.
Good old Dusty Johnson.
I'm telling you, shut the fuck up. I gotta get some sleep. God damn.
It's only 9:30. It's only 9:30.
Your backdrop shook when he slammed the door.
It
was vibrating.
Dude, he's about to go in there and beat us.
I know. That's what we're waiting.
What a memory. What a time. And those are some of my Masters memories right there. Now, the other part to that episode was that we decided that there are no birds. I never saw a bird when I was there. Mr. Short Game was out there that year. I believe it was 2022. And everything at the Masters is just perfect. So for those of you that have not been out there, you know how walkways where the patrons walk across the fairways? And you know how that gets browned out throughout the week? Not at Augusta National. And I did look when I was there. It is green pebbles that they put down that match the exact color of the grass. No birds, no animals, no squirrels. So during the broadcast, they clearly pump in bird sounds into the broadcast for ambiance, but there is nothing like being out there at Augusta National. Everything is perfect. Even divots from the previous day on tees. Now they fill them with green sand from the day before, but then they replace it the following morning. So, or overnight, they replace all of those divots so it's perfectly green once again. It's incredible as to what they do. They've got this thing down to an absolute science out there at Augusta National. And I can only hope one day that I will get the opportunity to be out there and play some golf out there. All right. Swannies style segment. And the question that I pose to all of you, if you had endless money to spend in the Masters gift shop, what 3 items would you be buying? Again, if you had endless money to spend in the Masters gift shop, what are the 3 items you are buying? For me, I would probably go, man, they have some awesome bags. So I would probably say one of the duffel bags I'd probably pick up as one. Oh, I would probably go with a cashmere sweater, number 2. And I'd probably go Masters flag number 3. Those are mine. What are yours? So what are the top 3 items you are buying if you have endless money and you are going to the Masters gift shop? And I will even post that in the podcast version as well. Here we go. Got one here from Golfer HD. He's going hat, bag, divot tool. Oh, divot tool's a good one. I did ball markers the one year. Still have those. I've given away a couple, but the ball markers are pretty sweet. So not too bad there. And clarify, bag, golf bag or like a duffel bag? I don't know if they have golf bags there. I would probably have to say that that's a duffel bag. All right, let's take a look at the next one here because this is a big style week, okay? This is where most brands that have players that are playing in the Masters, they're coming out with their new spring attire. They save it for the Masters. You see this all the time with Nike. Nike does this really the most. And my question is, did you see the cardigan for Tommy Fleetwood that he was wearing today? It was like a lighter purple cardigan. And I'll tell you, I am a big fashion person to where like I love stretching and kind of pushing the boundaries to fashion. But that cardigan was a little frumpy, if you ask me. Was not a big fan of Tommy Fleetwood in that cardigan. I don't think they put that in Tony Finau's bag of clothing, that's for sure. I did see that Tony's wife actually does a whole Instagram reel of all the things that Tony's going to be wearing every single day. And sure enough, that was not part of what Tony had in his deal. So clearly something for Tommy Fleetwood that they made specifically for him, but it just didn't look very, it wasn't formed to Tommy. It kind of just looked like a brown paper bag was kind of on him. I don't know. Like it just didn't fit him very well and wasn't a huge fan of that look out there. And again, I've worn a cardigan on the golf course, but a little bit more form-fitted than what they gave him out there. But I'm disappointed that the Jordans, the Air Jordan 1s that they actually gave to them for the week, especially Tony Finau, because Tony's got AJ 1s for the entire week. Was really disappointed that it was the gray and green ones that they came out with. I have a pair. I had to buy them because I'm like, oh, those are fire. That's perfect for Augusta National. You know, when Waste Management comes back around, that'll be good for that as well. They had Tony wearing them on a Monday. I'm like, what? You're wearing those on a Monday? That doesn't make any sense. So Tony Finau, Obviously, he doesn't have a choice. But I would at least say throw that on a Thursday or even a Sunday. Yeah, just not a huge fan that they did that to him. There's some, gosh, I forget what it's called. It's like the reflective material that they used on the black and white AJ1s, and those he's going to be wearing those 2 times during the week. So again, a little bit of style action there, but the green jacket, here's the other thing that I want to ask during this Swanee style segment is the green jacket. Is there anything more iconic? So, at Harbor Town, we get the checker jacket, but even across sports, is there a jacket that actually is better than the Masters or more iconic than the Masters green jacket? And I was thinking about this today too, as I built out these notes. I'm like, hang on a second. The Hall of Fame jacket for football is gold, but I was trying to think of like other jackets that are worn across sports, and I really just couldn't think of anything that was more iconic than the green jacket at the Masters. I'd love to hear if somebody can figure out a more iconic jacket or think that there's another sport that has a more iconic jacket. I'd love to hear it because I don't know if one exists. That's the Swanee style segment right there. And by the way, Golfer HD, he did just mention that it's a duffel that he would buy. Okay. So let's move into, and I know this is where some of the Twitter viewers are going to love this part of the show because it is LIV Golf's Masters Edition. Okay. So there are 13 players from LIV that are in the field this week. I'm going to run down with their betting odds as part of this. Okay. Because I think you're going to find some value in some of these players this week. And I know that there are quite a few LIV Golf haters. So if you're a hater, feel free to put it in the comments. If you're a lover, feel free to put it in the comments. But here we go. I'm going to break down each one of these players from LIV in our LIV Golf's Masters Edition. Golf, but louder. All right. Jon Rahm plus 1,100. One of the favorites this week. So my problem with Jon Rahm is he seems a bit lost, in my opinion. Jon Rahm has not been the same guy. And, he talked about during the press conference about how the team aspect is great and how he's really bought into that and it's added an additional level of excitement for him. That's great, John. But why have you not won a LIV Golf event yet? And I'll tell you right now, when he signed that deal, he took some time off. He was out goofing around at the skins game out here, the par 3 contest. And I just don't think he has his game back yet. And that's an honest opinion. I would love to talk to John about this whole thing because I wonder where he really believes his game is at right now. And I would almost guarantee you it is not at 100%. I would probably say that he would say something in the line of, 15, 20%, maybe, or not 15, 20, but maybe, 75, 80% is where his game is at right now. Do have a comment from Seaweezy Sports over here. So Seaweezy has Neiman and Bryson, which, I don't mind either of those, and we'll get into those guys here in a second. But Jon Rahm, he's been pretty honest, and if you look into what he said about the PGA Tour, he misses being on the PGA Tour. He definitely seems like he made a decision to go to LIV because he felt like that was going to be the tipping point. If he goes over to LIV, and he was one of these guys, by the way, that was very anti-LIV for the longest time. And then as soon as the framework agreement got announced, he felt betrayed, came out and said so. So for him to go over to LIV Golf, he probably felt like a deal was imminent. And he was probably getting that type of advice as well from his agent, because his agent was going to make a boatload of money. And, he went over. But now that it seems like it's a bit further out and that a deal might not get done, John he's missing it. And he's missing the PGA Tour. And he's locked into this contract now. And I don't know if he really is there mentally yet. So it'll be interesting to see him this week. I don't think John is one of the favorites this week. I don't think he's going to repeat. And I would love to see him play well, personally. Being a Scottsdale guy, we go to the same barber, love John Rahm. But I don't think he is going to be there come Sunday. That's just my honest opinion based off of his game so far as to what we've seen this year. Now, Brooks Koepka is the next highest rated player in LIV in terms of the odds, and he's at plus 2,200. Brooks Koepka, to me, is going through what Bobby Brown and a lot of other caddies have talked about, first child syndrome. So when you have your first child, it is an absolute detriment to your golf game. And we've seen it with numerous guys. And Bobby used to give me like specific examples of players as to when they had their first child and look at their stats. And every single one goes down. Now, he's not played well this year. He's not even the top guy on his team. Taylor Gooch currently is. I mean, and neither of them are in the top 10. I think Taylor Gooch might be 10th in the player standings. But he fired out. I mean, he was pumped up for Durrell. He even came out and said, hey, this is our first big boy course that we're going to be playing this year on LIV. Pumped about it. Good test to get us going for Augusta National. Throws out a couple 76s. Now, Brooks does have the ability to just turn it on. Not playing well, then all of a sudden he gets to a major championship and flicks that switch on, and then he is dialed in, potentially winning that particular event. So I'm not going to count him out. He did finish second last year to Rahm. He did lead after 3 rounds. So Brooks Koepka is one to keep an eye on, but I don't love him at those odds. Then you got Joaquin Niemann, okay? Sweezy Sports. I know this is your first guy that, good old Niemann. Hello, Niemann. Now, with Niemann, he's at plus 2,800. Pretty solid, okay? He's been on fire. But look at the tournaments that he has won on LIV Golf. And I don't know if that necessarily relates to the game that you need to have at Augusta National. Hence, why the odds are the way that they are. Why he's not one of the top 5 guys. I don't believe so anyways. Let's double check here. Yeah, he's not one of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not one of the top 6 guys according to the betting odds. Also, he has not really played Augusta National great. So his best finish was last year, which he's been improving each and every year out there at Augusta National, with a T16. He was T35 in 2022, and he was T40 in 2021. So every year, he's gotten a little bit better. And then he had a miscut back in 2018. Joaquin Niemann, as much as I love Joaquin, and I think he is an awesome young player, I don't know if he gets the job done at Augusta National, even if he's one of the top players going into Sunday. So don't love Joaquin Niemann. Now, Bryson DeChambeau, he's plus 3,500. We're getting a little bit better here, okay, in terms of some of the odds around these LIV Golf guys. Bryson DeChambeau plus 3,500, not bad. And by the way, Sweezy Sports, Niemann, DeChambeau, those are your 2 picks. I don't mind it at all. Don't mind it whatsoever. I think they have decent enough chances. Joaquin's coming in playing hot. DeChambeau seems like he's close. He's close with his game, and he's always tinkering. And I just don't know if Augusta National is the best golf course for his game. And, there's that saying, horses for courses. And Golfer HD here on Twitter just threw in that he'd be tempted to take LIV versus the field. I'm very tempted around that as well, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not because of any of the guys that I've talked about so far. I'll get into some of the guys that I think are sleepers this year. But with Bryson DeChambeau, I think we got to see a really good finish. Before he added all that distance to his game, Bryson DeChambeau had his best finish in 2016 before adding all that distance. And it was only a T21. So I don't love Bryson, okay? But again, Bryson, to me, this golf course should fit Bryson. Bryson hits a draw. Bryson should be able to play this golf course well. Golf gods might still be a little bit pissed off at him that he said it's a par 67 for him. I don't know if that went over great with the golf gods. And yes, the golf gods are real. You got to be careful with them. They do not like it when you say things like that. Now, Dustin Johnson at plus 4,500. DJ, to me, always has a chance. And by the way, with some of these guys that I really like, I'm not saying just go outright, put them in the winner circle, but I like some of these guys for top 20s. And if your betting sites allow you to do top 20s, or even players that are going to make the cut, I love these guys for top 20s. Okay. Love Dustin Johnson for a top 20 at the Masters. I think he always has a chance to win. His game is so naturally good. He can play a draw if he needs to. He normally cuts the ball, but Dustin Johnson always seems to be up there towards the top of the leaderboard come Sunday. So I've got nothing wrong with a Dustin Johnson bet in that. Cam Smith, I don't love, but once again, he draws the golf ball off the tee. Like, he is a natural drawer of the golf ball. His biggest issue is his driver has been absolute garbage this year. He has been a guy that just takes time off and time away. Got married last year at the end of the year. I don't know if Cam Smith has gotten his game back. And his iron play hasn't been that great either. But you cannot get away from the fact that Cam Smith is the best putter on the planet. And get him out there at Augusta National where you can spray your drives. And as long as you hit good approach shots, you're going to have a chance to make birdies. So Cam Smith, he's one of these guys that even though he has not played well recently, I don't mind Cam Smith plus 5,500. Okay. We're getting hotter here. Terrell Hatton is next at plus 6,000. He was T18 in 2021 and he was T34 last year. Terrell Hatton has a decent enough shot to get into that top 20. And with odds like that, I think Terrell Hatton's going to do pretty well out there, in my opinion. But the next guy, this is the guy that I would say is a very solid dark horse to watch out for. That is Patrick Reed. Patrick Reed is at plus 8,000. Okay. This is his major exemptions have run out. So he needs another major championship win in order to get into the other major championships even this year. So he's got incentive. And if you've been paying attention to LIV Golf, his game is coming along little by little by little leading up to the Masters. He's starting to really get into form. And for me, Patrick Reed is a great dark horse to potentially win this thing. Because if Patrick Reed gets in contention coming down Sunday, he is not a choke artist. This guy is as clutch as it comes. This is Captain America, and he will stare down anybody and beat them down at Augusta. And by the way, he has won at the Masters previously. So watch out this week for Patrick Reed. Okay. Sergio Garcia is next at plus 12,000. Oh man, I would love to say that Sergio Garcia has a chance Obviously, he has won here previously. For whatever reason, Sergio has a tough time closing out events. Always has. And to me, he has lost in 2 playoffs so far this year on LIV. One to Joaquin Niemann at Mayakoba, and then also last week at Doral. And he choked. Choked on 18. He had a 1-shot lead. Sitting perfectly in the fairway. Just needs to hit a good iron shot. Didn't hit it terrible, but it sprayed it out to the right. It's on the right side of the green. 3 putts. Goes to a playoff. First playoff hole, plays it okay. Second playoff hole, chunks it into the water. Sergio, man. Sorry, but if Sergio, which he's playing really well, I think he's got a chance to be in that top 20 group, but he is not going to win. If he comes down Sunday and he's in the lead, I just got a feeling he's going to choke it in. That one year that Sergio won, he was actually really clutch coming down the stretch. I don't think that's going to be him this year. Now, Adrian Meronk, plus 20,000. He has not played well since coming over to LIV. Be very curious to see how he plays at Augusta National. That's kind of a question mark guy right there. Don't really know. Not super high on, but plus 20,000. Those are some odds. Now, Phil Mickelson. I mean, guys, Phil finished T2 last year. Phil is one of these guys that just shows up and plays Augusta National really well. The only issue with Phil at plus 27,000 is if he gets off to a poor start. Sometimes Phil comes into Augusta National a little too pumped up, trying to hit bombs, trying to be aggressive, attack flag sticks. And every once in a while it backfires on poor Phil. But if Phil can just ease his way into the week, expect Phil Mickelson to be in the top 20. Phil Mickelson knows this golf course. And again, he has every little detail written in his book. So just know that Phil Mickelson has a real opportunity here, not necessarily to win, but to throw a little bit of change down on Phil Mickelson to win might not hurt anybody, but a good top 20 player or pick if he gets off to a good start. That's going to be the key for Phil. Again, there's sometimes in the very first round, Phil just gets a little too excited and just shits himself a little bit. Otherwise, Phil Mickelson, I do think will have another solid Masters. Now, Bubba Watson, who's won this tournament twice, plus 50,000. He's been battling so many injuries over the past couple of years. He's finally starting to look better. I just don't know if Bubba's one of these guys that, you know, he'll just get there and turn it on. Never seen that before from him at a major championship. He's won this tournament twice, and he kind of overpowered the golf course in a lot of ways. The 2 years that he won, especially the year that he beat Jordan Spieth in 2014. He really just, I mean, when it came down the stretch, you could tell. He just had the length, he had the power, he had everything going in his direction over Jordan Spieth. Bubba Watson, not expecting a whole lot out of him this year, but would love to see him play well. Charles Schwartzel, another one at plus 50,000. This one's actually a little intriguing, guys. Okay? Another past champion. And only 2 years ago, he finished T10. Playing solid on LIV. This is one of the guys that has actually benefited from LIV, in my opinion. He finished T2 at Jeddah. I like Charles Schwartzel to be in the top 20. I think he's going to play well. I just do. I hate to say he's going to do anything better than that, but I think he'll do pretty damn well this year. He's playing well. And I like Charles Schwartzel to be in the top 20. So you can kind of see where my head's at with the betting side of it, where quite a few LIV players, I think, have some really good odds and really good chance to play well this year. And I do think that putting together a nice little parlay for maybe 4 or 5 guys in the top 20 could end up paying out dividends. So keep that in mind when you go to put in your picks and everything. But LIV Golf, they're going to have a strong appearance this year at the Masters once again. I did post it today on Twitter. If you thought that, or who did you think was going to have more players in the top 10? PGA Tour or LIV Golf? Actually, let's see what that's at right now. I am actually curious to see where that is in terms of how many players. All right. So 88 votes. We've got 64% for PGA Tour, 36% for LIV Golf. Last year, it was very shocking that LIV Golf had so many people up in the top 10. This year, I think we might see the same type of deal, even though I do think a PGA Tour player is going to win. Okay? So my picks for the actual victory are PGA Tour players. I think Will Zalatoris as a dark horse. I like Hideki Matsuyama heading into this year. And then certainly Scotty Scheffler. But, you got guys out there like a Patrick Reed who really need this victory. And Sergio Garcia. Again, I don't think Sergio is going to win, so don't mark my words there. Phil Mickelson, who just, again, if he can get off to a good start. Charles Schwartzel. I mean, there's some good odds for some of these guys towards the bottom with the LIV Golf players. I don't like John Rahm. I don't like Brooks Koepka this year. Joaquin Niemann, I just don't know if he has it to win. Once again, horses for courses. But one thing going for Joaquin Niemann and Seaweezy Sports, you're going to like to hear this. Joaquin Niemann hits a really, really tight draw off of the tee. And that's going to bode really well for him this week. Terrell Hatton. I mean, there's some guys on there. Cam Smith, you just don't know what you're going to get with him. Okay, so now as we wrap up this episode, the guys who are not in the field, and I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this per se, but the LIV players that are not in the field, you've got a good gripe. Taylor Gooch has a good gripe that he should be in this field. Abraham Answer should probably be in this field. Dean Burmester, yeah, he should be in this field. And Paul Casey, in my opinion, should also. But you know who the biggest name that was missed this year is Louis Oosthuizen. So many fans just assume that he's in this. And it's quite disappointing to see that there is no more Louis Oosthuizen in the Masters this year. And that's disappointing. It really is. And do LIV Golf fans have a reason to be upset? Yeah, you sure do. I think, the crying by Taylor Gooch was too much. The LIV Golf lovers out there who are just like so jaded and that everything, the world's against us, blah, 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 blah. That's too much. But do you have a reason to be upset? Sure, you do. But be calm about it. It's like, you understand why they went over to LIV. They took a shit ton of money. They knew what they were signing up for. So do I have any kind of sympathy for them? Sure. But it's not to the point to where it needs to be, how do I put this nicely? It's like they knew what the hell that they were signing up for. They knew that they were going to get official world golf ranking points for the most part. They knew the risk that they were taking in going over to LIV Golf. And for some of those guys who have just been like, I still deserve it. I still deserve it. Like a Taylor Gooch, he rubs people the wrong way. Because it's like, hey man, you took all this money. So again, Do you have a reason to be upset as a fan? Sure. But I love the field that we have for the Masters this year. I don't think it takes anything away from the Masters field that we have this year. I don't think any of those guys are going to really compete to be a winner there other than Louis Oosthuizen. I thought Louis was the one to me that was the most disappointing to see not being in the field this week. But that wraps it up for our Masters special, folks. We got through it with your help. So I appreciate everybody listening. Those of you that added some comments in here as well, I appreciate that. And we will keep you posted. Keep an eye out. We may be doing a Friday special commentary. Get some clips from the first 2 days. Do some analysis there. And without further ado, just want to thank sponsor Swannies Golf and DriveBox for sponsoring tonight's episode. Once again, folks, you can go to swannies.co, use promo code PullHookGolf25 at checkout for 25% off your entire order. And make sure to check out DriveBox. Sweeping across the country. They're going to start going international now as well. So check them out in a major city near you. I know in California, they are doing a lot of activations. I appreciated Golfer HD. He stated great job. Love the show. Appreciate it. You know, these solo ones, you get a little winded. I'm under the weather. Butsy was very heavily under the weather, so we almost talked about canceling this one. But, it's the Masters. You got to play through. You got to fight through for the people. The show goes on. But without further ado, folks, appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy Masters Week 2024, and I will catch you all sometime soon.